What's up guys, XHOUNDISHx here, and today I wanted to talk about the best PvE primary weapons inside of Rise of Iron. So I do tend to cover things like this, generally regarding PvP stuff, but a few people did ask me to talk about PvE content as well. So this is just my opinion on some of the best weapons that I've used. Also, this will only be for new weapons in this expansion, not stuff that was in the game before Rise of Iron. As a heads up, a lot of these will center around the raid. There's going to be a few other things, vendor weapons and stuff like that thrown in, but on the whole, in this expansion, I found that the best PvE stuff really comes from the upper end PvE content, which does make sense. Similarly, the same can be said for the Crucible, where the weapon archetypes and potential bonuses are far more suited to that particular content. I feel like this is more the case in Rise of Iron than it's been over the past year or so, because obviously Bungie have got more data. They know the kind of things that we like to use in different activities, so it's worth bearing that in mind anyway. But let's start out. So Chaos Dogma I wanted to talk about a little bit first. This is a raid weapon. This can drop on the normal mode axis kill of Wrath of the Machine raid. It's a 27 rate of fire and 62 impact style of scout rifle, so it shares that archetype with Collivance's Duty and the Jade Rabbit, the super heavy hitting family of scout rifles. So you have bonuses on here of triple tap, where rapidly landing precision hits will return one round to the magazine, and triple double, where triple tap proccing causes another round to enter the magazine from reserves, meaning that you can fire a ton of crit shots in a row. This weapon does handle pretty well. It's a low rate of fire weapon, so it's not always the most comfortable scout rifle unless you're at pretty long ranges, but this thing puts out some serious damage as an all-round primary, and does even better if you're utilizing the bonuses specifically. In the magazine, you'll have 16 rounds with extended mag, which is pretty decent, especially utilizing triple tap and triple double. The reload is fairly typical of this archetype at 52, but the weapon also has a speed reload bonus if you want it. The weapon is extremely good wherever you can hit crit spots over and over. It's a great primary alternative for DPS on bosses, and if you have a small arms modifier on, then this becomes a pretty damn beastly weapon. It's not necessarily the best general use scout rifle at all, but it's super cool, and its unique set of capabilities make it pretty interesting in certain types of content. Moving on though, we have another normal raid weapon, the Genesis Chain Auto Rifle. So this also drops on the Axis kill. It's a 77 rate of fire and 29 impact auto rifle, the same as the Soros Regime and the Shadow Price family of ARs. On both of these weapons that I've spoken about, we have the perk Whirlwind's Curse intrinsically, which does do bonus damage to Fallen, which is pretty awesome. The auto rifle itself also has Focus Fire, which causes the weapon to fire slower but does extra damage, and Focus Firefly, which is another unique bonus, so precision kills with Focus Fire active will proc Firefly, which is pretty cool. It's really unique and nice to have Firefly on an auto rifle. I'm glad that they tried to make a great PvE auto rifle with this particular weapon. This thing is actually pretty beastly and probably a little bit underrated as well. The weapon features high caliber rounds on top of all the other unique bonuses, which really helps it to pack a punch. We have 30 rounds in the magazine and the base reload speed of 73, which is pretty great as well. So with this rate of fire, you'll get quite a few targets down in one mag as far as lower tier enemies are concerned. The weapon is pretty solid for general use, but I find that it really stands out at the Axis Phase 2 encounter of the raid because it's a shank killing beast. Literally, your only critical call for a primary weapon in this fight generally is going to be for shank, so you can take down a bunch of these things in one mag, and being able to continuously fire really helps keep those things at bay. Plus high caliber rounds will slow enemies down and reduce the damage that they'll deal to you ever so slightly as well because of the flinch. So it's a super cool auto rifle, very unique, very different, and like I said, I'm really glad that they did something like this with this particular archetype of weapon. It's absolutely worth trying out. Before we move on to what I would really consider the upper tier PvE weapons in this expansion, there are a few honourable mentions for weapons that you can pick up from tower vendors as well. So firstly, we have the Whale, which is the hand cannon from FWC. This is a 22 rate of fire and 81 impact style of hand cannon, so it's in the good old Fatebringer, Imago Loop, Hawkmoon archetype, generally the most used all-around type of hand cannon. So the vendor roll of this thing has armor piercing rounds, hammer forged, and Firefly, and Firefly obviously is a pretty important perk on this particular roll. The weapon won't be for everyone, but if you don't have a nice Firefly hand cannon just yet, or maybe you're new inside of Rise of Iron and haven't tried a hand cannon with the perk Firefly on it, then you should totally consider giving this thing a go. The solid Firefly hand cannon is something that everyone should definitely experience inside of the game. It's a lot of fun. You do have only 7 rounds in the magazine on this particular weapon, but you have a base reload speed of 45, which is fairly decent and at the upper end of what you'd expect with most of the hand cannons in this type, which certainly helps to compensate for that lower magazine size. It is a general use weapon. I wouldn't use it a ton in the raid, but I'd happily throw it on for most other PvE content. The handling's pretty nice, the perks are really solid. Like I said, the mag size is a downside to the weapon, but with a good base reload and maybe reload speed gauntlets, it's going to be pretty solid in general. As far as other stuff in the tower, there's not much that really gets me that excited, but there are two pretty nice scout rifles available as well. So we have the Angel's Advocate, which you can pick up from the Vanguard Quartermaster. This comes with Outlaw, Small Bore or Explosive rounds and reactive reload, so it's pretty nice. It's in the 42 rate of fire and 38 impact family, so it's kind of like the Mida multi-tool. It comes with 14 rounds in the mag, but with Outlaw and reactive reload alongside explosive rounds, you'll do some pretty great damage with very little downtime. There's also the Keystone scout rifle from Dead Orbit, which is a 27 rate of fire scout, so it's in that hard-hitting Collar Hunter's Duty Jade Rabbit family, and this has extended mag, triple tap and crowd control, and it's a pretty beastly roll for PvE content. As far as tower stuff goes, I think these are going to be the best PvE setup weapons specifically. Of course, you can get rolls on these or other weapons from the vendors, which could be pretty suited to PvE content in general as well. Up next, and these are really my favourite two weapons for PvE content in this particular expansion, or at least the weapons that kind of excite me the most because of their uniqueness. So we first have the Steel Medulla, and this is the pulse rifle from Wrath of the Machine. This drops on the heroic raid at the Axis kill. It's a 66 rate of fire and 14 impact Hake 4 round burst pulse rifle, so it kind of has the same rate of fire as the Red Death, but of course the damage will be slightly different. It is a very strong weapon in PvE. It has full auto and another unique bonus called Sign of 4, which deals bonus damage if you land 3 bursts and then a 4th burst on a target, which is really great for taking down some tankier enemies or doing a bit of extra damage if you use it on a boss or something like that. Overall, being a 4-round burst weapon, it does feel like it hits a little bit harder. I think the flinch values are much better having 4 rounds coming in each burst. You'll easily get 1 burst kills on all low tier adds, and it really packs a punch on higher health targets as well. 36 rounds in the magazine and a decent base reload of 73 is also really nice, and you can up that reload as well if you use speed reload. All around, it's a really great weapon, very flexible. It's very good in particular in the Archpriest and Axis Phase 1 encounters of the raid, being a fairly effective close range weapon, but absolutely dominating that medium to slightly longer medium range as well. Finally, I want to talk about Outbreak Prime. So this is an absolute beast of a pulse rifle, the exotic pulse rifle inside of Rise of Iron. So of course you get this through doing the raid. It's a very long quest, very grindy, but it's a 73 rate of fire and 7 impact style of pulse rifle, actually sharing the archetype with Hawksaw, and this style of pulse isn't generally the go-to for PvE content, although it does do really great damage. So we have special bonuses on this thing. The Corruption spreads, where enemies that take repeated hits spawn Siva nanites that attack other enemies. Fallen also take extra damage with this perk, and we also have Virulence, where Siva nanites are released upon precision kills, and these bonuses are absolutely fantastic for both PvE crowd control as well as damage. So the weapon handles really well. It does fantastic damage in general, but it's continuously doing even more damage with those nanite swarms, and these are capable of attacking other enemies as it says, but they'll also attack a single target. So if you proc them on a yellow bar, for example, they will actually attack the enemy that you've already been hitting, assuming there's nothing else close by. So it just absolutely shreds. We have 36 rounds in a magazine and a decent reload again of 76, which of course is helped by Outlaw, which is present on the weapon. All around, it's an absolute beast of a weapon. You can run it in patrol, you can run it in strikes, and again the raid. It's excellent for the upper end PvE content, and particularly strong in encounters where you can crit mobs. And very similar to Steel Medulla, it does really well at the Archpriest and Axis Phase 1 encounters in particular, but generally it will shred anything, especially fallen enemies, because of that bonus damage. So there you go, guys. These are my thoughts on the best PvE weapons inside of Rise of Iron. A lot of them were raid weapons, but I do feel like the raid weapons inside of this expansion are really great for PvE content, and are a lot more exciting, generally speaking, than what we saw inside of the King's Fall raid. So that's a really cool thing, and it definitely makes the raid something that's more appealing to the general audience inside of Destiny, I think. So anyway, guys, let me know down below what your favorite weapons are to use, if any of them are in this list, or any other stuff that I haven't spoken about. If you have enjoyed the video, a like is always appreciated down below, and if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe to see a lot more Destiny and Rise of Iron content. For now though, thanks for watching. You guys have an awesome day.